Welcome to CAC Library's instructional video, Selecting and Narrowing a Research Topic. This is a short video introducing you to some techniques for finding and refining a research topic for your paper or project. Finding a good topic for your paper is sometimes the hardest part of the whole writing and research process. I'm going to review 5 steps to get you started and then some additional strategies that might make it easier. Step number 1, read the assignment carefully. It's important that you read the assignment completely and carefully before you begin. Note how much time you have. When is the due date? How long does the paper or project have to be? What format is it in? How many sources do you need? Do the sources have to be scholarly, that is, peer-reviewed, or not? And if you're not clear on what it means for a resource to be scholarly, check with your instructor or a librarian. Can you use web pages? Do you have to submit an outline, a list of sources, drafts, or any other part of your paper before the final due date? What citation style is required? Are you using MLA or APA? Are you going to have to format the paper into pro and con arguments? All of these are important to know before you begin your research. Step number 2, choose a general topic that meets the project guidelines and that interests you. I've developed 3 general topics so that you can see how topics evolve: climate change, legalization of drugs, and the literature of Edgar Allan Poe. Now, these topics are too broad or general for a short research project, but you use them as a starting point to define a narrower or more specific topic that you can effectively write about in the number of pages you are assigned. And if you're interested in the topic, it's going to make the project more enjoyable. Try to choose something that piques your interest. Step number 3, do some background reading and preliminary research for ideas. Use your class notes and class readings. Look at reference sources such as encyclopedias, atlases, and statistical handbooks that provide an overview and the terminology of your subject. Try the online library database, Gale Virtual Reference Library, for a reference book on almost any academic subject. Talk to your instructor, librarian, or tutor. Look at reliable news sources such as Time Magazine, U.S. News and World Report, Arizona Daily Star, if your topic is current in particular. Just beware of fake news. Look at other library databases, especially those organized by subject, such as CQ Researcher, Opposing Viewpoints, and Issues and Controversies. These databases also help you create arguments and find useful sources all in one place. These databases are particularly useful if you're creating a pro and con project. You can start there and find some very helpful topics. Here's some examples of the kind of background readings for each of my predefined topics. For climate change, you can look at something like an ebook, Encyclopedia of Global Warming. You can find ebooks in one of the library ebook databases or through the library online catalog. You can also look at the article of climate in the Encyclopedia of Environment and Society, which is found in the database Gale Virtual Reference Library, or you can use print books. Or we also have films on demand, which are videos. Legalizing drugs, we have other databases and the same databases that will help you find what you need, such as the Issues and Controversies database, or CQ Researcher. Again, Films on Demand is a video database that has videos on these subjects. You can look at a print book, such as Getting High, Marijuana Through the Ages. And for Edgar Allan Poe, there are literature specialty databases such as LitFinder and Bloom's Literary Reference Online. All of these are library databases accessed through your Blackboard account. So look at ebooks, print books, articles on databases, videos, all kinds of sources to help you get a handle on your general topic and start to narrow it. Step number 4, define a possible topic for your paper, not too broad and not too narrow. Well, okay, but how do you know if something's too broad or too narrow? There are some red flags that will indicate to you that your subject is either too broad or too narrow. If, for instance, there are too many possibly good sources to review, such as hundreds or more, or there are so many sources that you feel overwhelmed, that's a good key to indicate that your topic is too broad. If you cannot discuss the topic in detail within the scope of your project, that all you can do is make general statements about the subject, that's another indication that your subject is too broad. If there are many entire books written about that same subject, then you probably need to narrow your subject. But what if it's too narrow? How will you know? You'll know if, for instance, you only find 3 or 4 sources for it, 3 or 4 good sources for it. Or if the subject is so current that there's not a lot written about it. If it's just been in the news very recently, you won't find a lot written about it. And you can also know it's too narrow when you can write about the topic in detail in the fewer pages than are required for your entire subject. Now you need to think about broadening your subject. Here's some hints for broadening or narrowing your topic. You can expand or restrict by a specific population, for example. Male, female, child, adult, species. If, for example, you're looking at global warming and you want to see how global warming is going to affect mammals, you might want to restrict it to maybe South Africa, a region, or a species. How is climate change going to affect the species of elephants or of lions? You can also expand or restrict by a time period, for example, comparing drug policies in the 1960s or in the 1980s, or by geographical area, drug policies in Colombia versus drug policies in Mexico, or by type, if you're looking at literature, prose or poetry, or 2 poems you might want to compare and contrast. So here's some examples. If we take my general subject, climate change, we begin to do reading and we find a subject, how are glaciers affected by climate change? That topic is specific enough to be handled effectively in a few pages. Or the legalization of drugs becomes, is marijuana addictive? That's a subject that there are some good sources on. And if you look at Edgar Allan Poe, you can begin to find a subject, say, why does Poe find dead women so romantic? These are research questions that you can begin to answer and find good sources to complete your project. And your background reading should help you find a viable topic. And step number 5, now you're ready to identify specific sources for your topic or research question. Again, turn to print books, ebooks, or book chapters. You don't need to read an entire book. You can use chapters or sections of a book or an ebook. Look at journal and magazine articles, both print and online. Look at online library databases, again, access through Blackboard and CAC library resources. Some of those databases are going to be very helpful, perhaps the most helpful resources that you're going to find. Look at authoritative websites if they're allowed by your instructor, especially those that are .gov or .edu. Reputable news sources, again, can be very useful. And ask your instructor, librarian, or tutor for help searching, identifying, and evaluating resources. Are you still having some trouble getting started? That definitely happens. Sometimes you get stuck. Here are 3 techniques to get yourself going: free writing, brainstorming, and mind mapping. The key to all of these techniques is to relax and let your mind make connections without restraints. These connections may not seem logical. They may in fact not be logical. But what you're doing is you're getting your mind to creatively explore a topic and get over some of the barriers that you place in your own way, such as doubt and fear. First, free writing. When you free write, you first set a time goal, normally 3 to 5 minutes. Now you start writing about your general subject. Just write a deluge of words. Anything you write is okay, even repeating the words over and over again. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. Just keep the words flowing for the entire period and don't stop. Ignore spelling, grammar, or punctuation. This is just for you. Relax and let your mind go. Eventually, you will start writing ideas that interest you and that you can use to develop into a topic. Here's an example of free writing about the Edgar Allan Poe subject. So, I'm interested in Edgar Allan Poe. I have no idea what to write about. No ideas, no ideas. What is wrong with me? Well, he was kind of creepy. He lived in New York City. He married his 14-year-old cousin or something unsavory. He wrote poetry and stories. Didn't he invent a detective novel or something? I think they called his writing Gothic. I don't know. Something about Baltimore. He seemed to be obsessed with young women, young dead women. What's up with that? Why would he think about that? Strange, all so strange. He looked like he was sick in his pictures. I liked the raven the best. Ravens are cool birds. Wasn't the raven about another dead woman, a dead wife? Did he kill his wife? Wasn't he alcoholic or a drug addict? All of his women characters were so flat and lifeless. They were dead. He was kind of obsessed with death and women. Okay, this is a brief example of what free writing might look like. But you see, you begin to find that you draw a connection between death and women in Edgar Allan Poe's writing. You can make a subject out of that, the connection between death and women in some of his works. Brainstorming, the second strategy. Brainstorming is like free writing. It is writing down ideas without any restraints. Anything goes and no idea is too crazy. Brainstorming is creating a list. You set a time frame or not, whatever you like, and then you create a list of free-flowing ideas. Brainstorming is a useful strategy for group projects as well as solo. It works very well in a group. You list any ideas that are related to your general topic, and don't worry about spelling, logic, categories, or punctuation. Just relax and let your mind go. Afterward, you then look at your ideas and begin to sort and categorize them. You'll see connections and you'll see categories and subcategories, and it will turn out that you could very well find a good subject. Here's an example of brainstorming. So you start out here with just a list that you make, just a brainstorming list. Then you look at that list when you're done and you begin to categorize it. So you can see you begin to look at the legalization and look down here. Here's marijuana with 2 subcategories. What's the effect on police of the legalization of marijuana, and what are the medical consequences? Now you have 2 good new avenues to look at and to find research questions on. The third strategy is mind mapping. Mind mapping is a visual way to lay out and organize a topic. It's a good technique for visual learners. You start by writing your general topic in a box or circle in the middle of a blank piece of paper. You then start a branch with related subjects and keep building, following that line of thought. If you get stuck, just start another branch. Don't stop for several minutes. Once you're done, check your ideas. Draw connections between ideas that you may not have already connected. Note related ideas, including points of contrast or comparison. And then begin to prune the map. Take the best ideas, the ideas that appeal to you the most. Now you can begin to refine them and define them more precisely into a viable research topic. Here's an example of mind mapping. So you start with climate change, for example, and now you begin to look at related subjects. But you're most interested in oceans, so you pursue that. Now, from your background reading, you know that coral bleaching, ocean currents, and seawater intrusion are both very important subjects within oceans and the effect of climate change. But you're most interested in ocean currents. So you think about all of the things that you read about ocean currents and what might be affected by climate change. Creating more storms, the global conveyor belt, coastal and surface currents. But you look at global conveyor belt and its effect on glaciers and sea ice or on deep water, or you might be interested in storms, how they're going to affect human communities or marine life. Once you finish this, you can begin looking at these topics and you see the order and create a viable research avenue to pursue. It's important to remember that research is not a linear process. There is a lot of back and forth. Even Al Purdue admits this. Research topics are often fluid and dictated more by the student's ongoing research than by the original chosen topic. Such fluidity is common in research and should be embraced as one of its many characteristics. So, embrace the process. Sometimes a good topic comes to you easily, but for those times that it's not coming easily, try some of these techniques and strategies. They should help, and good luck. Here's some helpful resources that you can find in the library. We have library books to check out that will help you with the entire paper writing and research process. We also have library instructional videos accessed through Blackboard and the CAC library resources that will help you with specific databases and how to research and use them most effectively. There's also some good online help. The Purdue Online Writing Lab, or OWL, has a good webpage on the process of research and defining a topic, as does the University of Michigan Flint. MIT Libraries also has a very helpful page on finding and defining a research topic. That's all for now. Good luck, and I'll see you at the library.